It's Wednesday, May 8th, and I'm your host, Paula Hersey. On Barnstable Today, we welcome back the dynamic entomologist duo with another creepy crawly episode of Bug Buzz and learn how to recycle smart. Now for a look at municipal and legislative news. The town of Barnstable is coordinating with the Massachusetts Division of Fisheries and Wildlife regarding the future potential to site water supply wells on the 250-acre parcel owned by the Commonwealth that directly abuts the Hyannis public water supply. The town continues to work with Mass and Fish Wildlife to finalize an agreement that would enable the town to install public water supply wells on the 250-acre Hyannis Ponds Wildlife Management Area. Town manager Mark Ells has a final draft agreement under review authorizing the installation of test wells on the fish and wildlife parcel. He anticipates signing the access agreements in the near future, and there are plans to conduct testing on this and other parcels later this calendar year. Our favorite entomologists are back on set with two new insects. The beloved Ladybird and the dreaded Bedbug are up next in this new episode of Bug Buzz.
Hi, I'm Larry Dapsis. I'm the entomologist with Cape Cod Cooperative Extension, and I'm here today with my high-flying bug buddy,
Gabrielle Sokolsky, Cape Cod Mosquito Control.
And welcome to this segment of Bug Buzz, where me and Gabby, we bring a couple different creatures into your attention. Sometimes you're familiar with them, maybe not. But we're going to fill in a lot of details about how cool these things are and how they make their living. So what do we have today in the queue for you?
Oh, I hope people aren't familiar with this insect. I'm going to be talking about bedbugs.
Oh, very cool.
Very cool.
Very big problem.
They are, and more recently as well.
Oh, yeah.
So bedbugs are true bugs. They are in that classification with different insects like the stink bug. I talked about the brown marmorated stink bug a few episodes ago. They all have long, thin mouth parts, which is how you identify them as true
Sure.
bugs. They use those mouth parts to pierce and suck the juices out of whatever they're biting. The brown marmorated stink bug, biting plants, sucking the juices out of fruits. Unfortunately, the bedbugs are biting exposed skin of humans that are sleeping and sucking the juices out of us.
Yeah,
Kinda
and it's made a comeback
It really
in modern
has.
times.
Nasty little vampires. They go through the same life cycle as the brown marmorated stink bug. They lay their eggs, but now they're laying their eggs in cracks and crevices around these sleeping people. And when they hatch as nymphs. They're light-colored. They tend to, again, be around those cracks and crevices. They feed and they molt over time. They develop into their adult stage. So the adult-staged bedbug is about the size of an apple seed, and they're sort of pear-shaped. They're reddish-brown. And so you can actually see them with your eye. I think people think they're small, but you can see bedbugs. You've seen bedbugs, unfortunately.
Not in my house.
So, no, not in your house, not in your house. Bedbugs tend to be in places like hotels, dorms, public transportation, places where people spend a lot of time, places where they might find a food source.
It's hard to think about, bedbugs as being a problem in a subway or in taxi cabs or even on airlines.
It is, but you're carrying your bags with you,
has
and
happened.
other people are doing the same. So I guess I like to think of the bedbug story today as kind of a success story in pest control, in that the reason why we've seen the bedbug population bounce as much as it has and increase in the past few years, recent years, decade, is that pest control is getting more targeted. We're doing a better job at targeting our pests. We're using pesticides that only target that pest you're trying to control and not the other stuff. So, around World War II era, we were using more general pesticides. We were getting good at that. People were spraying a lot of that. Bedbug populations started to disappear. And as we got more targeted, and as people incorporated things like integrated pest management into their plans, looking at the big picture, encouraging predators and parasites in a system, what you saw was less use of pesticides and increase in bedbug population. So it's not all bad news.
No, but there's also a factor in insecticide resistance that they build. So that's why they've kind of exploded today.
True. So the best thing to do to keep from getting bedbugs. Bedbugs aren't a reflection of hygienic conditions.
No.
Even the highest level hotels, beautiful, many stars, they can have bedbugs. People are coming and going all the time
Even
with
Trump
their
Tower.
bags. No comment. So The best way to control bed bugs is to not bring them into your home in the first place. So when I get to a hotel, and people who I travel with tend to think of me as a little paranoid, all my luggage goes into the bathroom.
Sure.
I go in, I check around the mattress, I check around the headboards, because that's where you're going to see signs of these insects. And I've got some pictures of what the signs look like. You'll see molted skins, you'll see little brown dots. They're feces after they've fed on somebody. So I go through the room, look for that, look for whether they've been there, see if I see anything. And actually, some of the hotels have gone a step further now, where they're trying to prevent bedbug infestations. They've got mattress covers now that are treated, that they'll zip up their mattresses and box springs in. That doesn't mean that they're controlling them completely, because they could be in cracks and crevices somewhere other than that mattress.
Right.
So
I know that there's a lot of bedbug jobs that are being done on Cape Cod by pest control companies.
there are. They say the most recent survey said 97% of pest control companies are doing bedbug work every year now.
Yeah.
So in a year. And they say 1 out of 5 people in a survey has either had bugs or know someone who has bed bugs. So I'm staying at that hotel, I've checked around. I still don't assume when I come home that I don't have bed bugs with me. My suitcase is a duffel bag, and as soon as I get home, duffel bag, clothes, everything into the dryer for half an hour. It's the heat that ends up killing those bed bugs. And it was interesting because you had sent me that article. Now, heat has been a way that people are actually controlling bed bugs in apartments and in camps and places like that as well. If they can get the heat in the room up above 120 degrees for 20 minutes at least, you end up killing the bed bugs and all the different life stages of the bed bugs.
But it's not easy to do that, to get that uniform heat.
No, that's very hot. But the article you had sent me was interesting because you had mentioned resistance earlier. They're saying now that there's some resistance even to those heat treatments.
Sure.
So the best advice is to not bring bed bugs into your home. And if you do and you find you have an infestation, the best advice is to call a professional. The bed bugs are into crevices, into all those cracks. On your own, you are not going to be able to control
have an
bed bugs.
inspection.
Exactly.
But there's almost a silver lining in this, Gabby, as much as people detest insects that bite them, bed bugs don't transmit diseases like ticks and mosquitoes.
Exactly. They are annoying, and you should not encourage them in your home, but you're exactly right.
Okay. So not exactly a warm and fuzzy insect that you brought to us
No,
this
but
week.
not all bad news.
Okay, that's all. So I will bring in the warm and fuzzy aspect to this.
As expected.
One of our viewers, a very good friend of mine, Liam Bolo, she contacted me and says, Larry, could you do something on ladybird beetles? And what triggered this is that she had an infestation of ladybird beetles in her house, and we'll get to who that is and in a few minutes. But who doesn't love ladybird beetles? If you look at them, they're iconic. And one of the things that I don't think a lot of people understand or know is that the 7-spot ladybird beetle is our official state insect, okay? And this was enacted in 1974. And why it was enacted is really kind of an interesting story. They're at Franklin Elementary School, 3rd graders. They were getting a lesson from their teacher about all things that are officially state. So our state bird is the chickadee, our state fish is the cod. And the students asked the teacher what our state insect was, and the teacher said, we don't have one. So these students organized a letter writing campaign and got this pushed through. So lesson here is that if you want to get something done on Beacon Hill, enlist the help of students and send the kids to do that. They are absolutely beautiful aesthetically. You see images of ladybird beetles incorporated into art. It's a very popular costume design for Halloween, and it doesn't just have to be little cute kids, but it can be even very confident adults. And we see this here. So all ladybird beetles aren't the classic red with the black spots. So if we look at this kind of group here, you see there's a lot of different sizes and shapes and color patterns. In North America, we have about 500 plus species, so there's a lot of different kinds out there. So you see the classic red with the black spots, or the black with the red spots, or kind of pink with black spots, so it ranges. What people don't often recognize is the immature stages. So the larvae, if you look at these here in this picture, they look like little alligators. And the benefits of ladybird beetle adults and larvae is that they feed on soft-bodied insects like aphids and scale and mites. So they're kind of a natural biological control organism. So look at this picture here. This is Cottony cushion scale on citrus. And Cottony cushion scale was a major pest of California orange groves for many years. And in the late 1800s, Charles Valentine Riley, entomologist for USDA, he looked into this situation. He's considered the father of modern biological control. And he thought that this is an introduced insect. Let's go to its native land and see what is keeping it under control. In this case, they went to Australia and they found this predator, ladybird beetle, the Vidalia beetle. So what they did was they collected large numbers of these, brought them to California, released them into the citrus groves, and it is a mainstay of control of Cottony cushion scale today. Now these things, they look pretty, but they're basically brightly colored and they stand out for a reason. It's warning coloration. So it's kind of like the monarch butterfly. It's like they want to be conspicuous. And for a predator, if they happen to try feeding on a ladybird beetle, you see here this little droplet of blood. They will bleed from around their joints. And that blood contains alkaloid chemicals, which smell really bad. And they taste very bad, and they're poisonous, okay? So they have this defense mechanism that works out very, very well. Now here is the problem ladybird beetle that comes into structures. Here's the Asian ladybird beetle, okay? You see this on the right-hand side, and very conspicuous, easy to identify. It's obviously introduced, and they will invade structures in the fall, kind of like stink bugs, in big numbers. And because most ladybird beetles, when they are going to overwinter, they'll find a protected area like under tree bark or in leaf litter. Right. But these Asian ladybird beetles, they look at things a little differently. So you can have large numbers of these in, attic crawl spaces or in spare rooms.
We had them in our apartment when we were at UMass.
Yeah.
Lots of them.
And the thing that's incredible to me is that if you have this problem, you can actually go into a store and buy a ladybird beetle insecticide. And I don't want people doing that at all, okay? It's a crazy thing to approach, but there are companies that have products like that on the market. Best thing to do to solve for this is good old vacuum cleaner, because you don't want a lot of dead insects building up and crumbling, creates fragments, creates allergen potential. So pretty easy to clear up. You can buy ladybird beetles, and a number of people think that I'm going to go to a company, buy ladybird beetles, release them into my garden, and we're off. That's actually kind of a waste of money. The first thing that's going to happen when you release all those ladybird beetles is they're going to get up and fly away, because there's not enough insect prey to kind of keep 1,000 ladybird beetles focused on that area. So the best thing a homeowner or a gardener can do is plant flowering herbs. That not only will help native pollinators, but ladybird beetle adults feed on the pollen and the nectar, so it's a good thing for everybody. So that is it for this segment of Bug Buzz. Hope Leanne enjoyed it. And Gabby and I look forward to coming back to you again sometime with another couple very interesting creatures. So stay tuned.
We talked to Katie Parcell, Waste Reduction Coordinator for Barnstable County, on the ins and outs of recycling smart and a website that can help you determine whether an item is recyclable.
My name is Carrie Parcell. I work for Barnstable County. My district is with Cape and Islands, and I am the Municipal Reduction Coordinator. So a Municipal Reduction Coordinator is the person who goes around and helps the municipalities with their MSW, which is Municipal Solid Waste Programming, in reducing waste, diverting waste through various programs, through composting, anaerobic digestion, recycling programs, and identifying other programs for shared resources that the county as well as the islands can work on together to be able to get rid of and solve our trash problems. So one of the biggest challenges that we're facing right now is the national sword, that most of our recyclables were being shipped over in cargo over to China. And what happened was is those cargo ships and those containers were very, very much contaminated with non-recyclables, basically trash. And so they had started to actually enforce inspections at the port and started to reject our loads. And so that caused a big bottleneck and a backup of our recyclables. And this happened all over the world with other countries as well. So for the state and for the county here in Barnstable, what happened was is it trickled down from the ports into the state to our private haulers as well as to the municipalities down all the way to the residents. And so there was a huge financial burden because all of a sudden there was nowhere to take our basic recycling. So recyclables is exactly that. It's a commodity. So monthly, sometimes weekly, daily, they look at the CPI, which is the Commodity Price Index. And a lot of municipal programs don't actually contract with recycling vendors because of the ebb and flow of the commodity and the pricing. Sometimes you can get a rebate, sometimes you have to pay for things to get taken away. So what really happens is when the national sword happened, we started to see what we thought was free, which recycling had never been free, really sort of become, again, a financial burden because municipalities, they base their budgets at the fiscal year. So July 1st is when their numbers are all the way through June 30th of the next year. And there's no wiggle room except for when you have a county government that goes to our board of select people and sometimes town meeting to be able to switch those budgets. There's no real wiggle room in a lot of municipal programs. So a great example is Barnstable had a contract with ABC. They were being charged $0 a ton for single stream recycling. After this occurred and after the contract ended, they went from $0 a ton to be tipped all the way to 110. And it's ebbed and flowed from there. Right now they're sitting at about 95. So again, you go from 0 to 95. And that's a huge burden financially. And Barnstable's transfer station and the Department of Public Works has to look at that budget and eventually go to town meeting or find other ways to resolve those issues based on a fixed budget that was predetermined at the beginning of the fiscal year. So there's sort of multiple ways that you can process, give away, take your recycling to your transfer station or even at the curb. So single stream was something that happened about 30 years ago as a convenience. And so what happened was infrastructure, MRFs, material recovery facilities, we have 8 of them in the state, were able to process single stream, whether it was at the curb or at the transfer station. And so it made it convenient for residents to put everything into a bin and drop it off into one compactor and then for it to be shipped over to the sorting facilities. And that was a convenience thing. The issue with single stream is that sometimes it creates contamination because we don't really know what's recyclable. And because of that, we were in that state of, with in doubt, put it in the bin and someone else will sort it out. Now we're looking at more of a back to basics recycling, especially with the onset of the national sword. We need to clean up our streams. So dual stream and source separated are those ways where we traditionally used to do our recycling. So you have plastics in one bin, your tin, aluminum in another, your glass, sometimes color glass versus clear glass, newspaper, mixed paper, cardboard, and they're all in these separate streams. Dual stream is where you might have your plastics, your tin, and your glass in one, and then cardboard, and then maybe newspaper, mixed paper. So you're sort of divvying out the streams. You're not just universal, clear, clean streams. So the streams stay cleaner because you're doing that because you know that the newspaper goes here, whatever goes here. And with the back to basics model that we're looking at after, July of 17 and China's national sword, it's sort of with in doubt, throw it out. go ahead and make it trash versus putting it in the bin and someone else will sort it out for you. And that's what's really happening is in single stream when they go to the sorting facilities, there are human hands that are sorting it, but they can only handle so much contamination. And we're so used to that convenience of just throwing it in and sort of forgetting about it and not really thinking about where that away is for that recyclable material. And so we take advantage of that convenience to throw everything in the bin. You know, previously the state, you know, the Department of Environmental Protection is an excellent resource for people, and they certainly help with funding for municipalities to help fund new and innovative recycling programs. After the National Sword, they had to take a really hard look because not only was Barnstable County as well as Dukes and Nantucket counties affected, but the whole state was affected. How Barnstable County and the islands were lucky was we all have drop-off centers. Even some of the towns that do have a curbside program, there are drop-off facilities for recycling and bulky waste and things like that. So we really didn't have to worry about our cleaner streams because they were sort of naturally cleaner. It doesn't mean that we weren't affected financially. I mean, I mentioned Barnstable going from 0 to 110 a ton at its highest. I mean, it was a major financial backfall. So traditionally, it was sort of up to the municipalities to help educate residents, whether it was at the drop-off recycling center with staffing or sending a mailer or some sort of infographic in with the tax bill, the water bill, websites, sandwich signs, things like that. But where the state really stepped in and created this really exciting, social media campaign, and what they called it is Recycle Smart MA, which is right behind me, and it gives you an infographic that you can print out and send out or hand out at your transfer station. You can add it to your own website, so the town websites. And within this Recycle Smart website is what we call the Recyclopedia. And it's a widget where you can actually type in the question. And when you type it in, the image of what you're typing in, like say hot coffee cup lid, will show up so you know that's what you're asking about, and then it'll tell you where to put it. And if it's not quite in the bin recycling material stream, like a textile, for example, it'll tell you to recycle it, but where to recycle it, because that's not something you would put into your bin or single stream recycling, because that is sort of a no-no and a contaminant, because when it does go to the sorting facility, it can muck up the mechanics of those sorting facilities, and it stops production, and then human hands have to physically go in and unjam the machinery, which could be a worker health and safety issue. So if I'm, an average resident and I've learned about this, now the limitation to social media is only accessible to those who have computers and who have access to the internet. For Barnstable County, that can be tricky because we do have an older population, or sometimes even a population who kind of understands the internet or has access to it, doesn't really know how to go about searching or doing Google searches to find this stuff out, and sometimes people need help. With that being said, the majority of people do have access to this. So you would type in Recycle Smart MA, and really it comes to a link that says, what can I recycle? Or I think it says something like, can I recycle this? And you get this beautiful homepage. And what's really nice about this homepage is there's a recycling guide. So there's a recycling guide, which is an infographic that really takes you back to basics. And what's nice about it is you can print it out if you're a municipality or a trash program or even a private hauler, because this affects everybody. So this is a really nice infographic. It talks about the numbers of contaminants that are really affecting our recycling stream, which is do not bag recyclables, no yuck, which is food waste, and then clothing and linens and tanglers. I put clothing and linens and tanglers sort of in the same category because they both have the ability to, again, muck up that the mechanics of the sorting equipment at our MRFs. However, clothing and linens are textiles and it has its own material stream. Tanglers are things like metal coat hangers, Christmas lights, garden hoses, vacuum hoses, anything that you really wouldn't want to run over with a lawnmower in your yard is a tangler. And plastic bags are the biggest and the most #1 bad contaminant because it's confusing for folks, because it is plastic. They do say recycle us, but they don't go into our single stream bins, and they do not want to be processed through those sorting facilities. They need to go back to your grocery stores and recycled there in a clean stream. So that's one way that can help both residents and municipalities. The other is this the smart guide through the Recyclopedia. So again, you can type in almost, I think it's over 400 different materials to find out if it's recyclable, If not, where does it go? And if it is recyclable but not in your bin or at the transfer station, where should that material go, like a textile? So that's what's really nice. The other thing about the Recycle Smart MA is you can become a partner, whether you're a municipality, a nonprofit, or a resident, and that offers you the ability to put this onto your website, access several things. There's a whole plethora of things that I really haven't even researched myself, but it's really great. It's fantastic. The state really stepped up in doing this social media campaign. I only use Facebook, so I can like the Recycle Smart, but you can do it on Instagram. I think there's a Snapchat. What's the other one? Twitter. So there's different ways that you can like and follow, and share. And get people to really start paying attention. So that's what's really nice about this. And it's sort of an all-encompassing guide for how this particular state, the Commonwealth, wants you to recycle based on the infrastructure that we have.
Up next, things to do, places to go, and people to meet. Join the Hyannis Business Improvement District on Hyannis Main Street and support your favorite local businesses on Shop Local Day, May 11th. When you shop local, your money stays local, and you support the Cape Cod economy. Main Street is showing their appreciation with special deals and promotions for Shop Local Day. You can also be entered to win a gift basket of some of your favorite Main Street goodies by shopping on Main Street on Shop Local Day. Check their Facebook page for a list of deals and promotions, www.facebook.com/Hyannis Main Street. Comments, suggestions, accolades? Connect with us on Facebook, email us, or send us an old-fashioned note by carrier pigeon. Channel 18 works for you. I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.